I'm angry that without Picard's spinoff, Star Trek will never answer its biggest Q question. For all the time travel paradoxes, transporter accidents, and alternate timelines that Star Trek has thrown at audiences, no character embodies mystery more than Q. Since John Delancey's first appearance in Star Trek, The Next Generation's pilot, Q has been a riddle wrapped in omnipotence, simultaneously comedic and terrifying. He can snap his fingers and unmake reality, yet what always made him captivating was his inexplicable fascination with humanity, and more specifically with Jean-Luc Picard. But with Star Trek, Pickard now concluded, fans are left with an unsatisfying realization. The franchise never truly answered its biggest Q question. Why, out of all the captains, all the civilizations, and all the infinite possibilities of the galaxy, did Q fixate so intensely on Pickard? And now, unless Paramount greenlights some kind of spin-off, it looks like we'll never know. This isn't just nitpicking over continuity. The Q-Picard dynamic was a thematic backbone of TNG and became even more profound in Picard's final season. The way it ended with a touching farewell rather than a grand revelation was beautiful, yes, but it also felt like Star Trek dodged the bigger question fans have waited decades to see answered. Q's obsession with Pickard. From the very beginning, Q put Pickard on trial for the crimes of humanity. At first, this seemed like typical godlike arrogance, an omnipotent being testing mortals for his own amusement. But as TNG progressed, Q's appearances shifted from antagonistic to strangely personal. He wasn't just observing Pickard. He was shaping him, challenging him, pushing him toward growth. Why? What did Q see in him? Pickard wasn't Kirk, the action hero. He wasn't Sisko, the spiritual warrior. He wasn't Janeway, the determined survivor. Yet for Q, Pickard was uniquely compelling. He was the one captain who treated Q not as a god to be worshipped, nor a threat to be destroyed, but as a being worth engaging. That balance of skepticism, respect, and curiosity may have been why Q was drawn to him. Still, Star Trek never outright explained it. The closest we got was in TNG's finale, All Good Things, when Q revealed that humanity's trial was ongoing and that Pickard had taken the first step into a new level of awareness. But even then, it was deliberately vague. Was Q preparing Pickard for something greater? Was he grooming him as a representative of humanity in the eyes of the continuum? Or was it all just personal curiosity? Picard Season 2 made it even murkier. When Q returned in Star Trek, Picard Season 2 fans expected answers. Instead, we got more riddles. This time, Q's involvement wasn't about humanity, it was about Picard's soul. The godlike trickster forced Pickard into an alternate timeline and back to 2024 Los Angeles, all to push him toward confronting his unresolved childhood trauma. It was deeply personal. Q wasn't testing humanity anymore. He was guiding Jean-Luc toward healing. He was, bizarrely enough, acting as a friend. And then came the bombshell. Q was dying. The revelation that Q wasn't immortal after all was huge, but it raised even more questions. Why spend his final moments with Pickard? Why not with the Continuum or another being of great importance? Q's explanation was characteristically cryptic. You matter to me. Even gods have favorites, Jean-Luc. That's poetic, yes. It's emotionally powerful, absolutely. But it's also evasive. Why Pickard? Why him? Picard Season 2 answered everything and nothing at once, leaving fans with a sense of both closure and frustration. The spin-off that could have answered it. Here's where the frustration really kicks in. After Picard Season 3, fans clamored for a continuation, dubbed Star Trek Legacy, that would follow 7 of 9, Raffi, and the next generation of characters. Terry Matalas, the showrunner, hinted that Q's story wasn't finished, especially after the Season 3 post-credit scene where Q revealed to Jack Crusher that his journey with the Continuum was only beginning. That one scene reignited speculation. Was Q's death in Season 2 just one version of him, given his non-linear existence? Was Jack the next Pickard in Q's eyes, someone destined for greatness and in need of guidance? Was the Continuum itself interested in humanity's evolution? But with Paramount shelving Legacy, all those questions remain unanswered. And that means the franchise's biggest Q mystery, the reason behind his connection to Pickard may never be solved. Why this question matters: some fans might argue that Q works best as a mystery, that over-explaining him risks diluting the magic. That's valid. But the Q-Pickard relationship isn't just about spectacle, it's about philosophy. Star Trek has always been about exploring what it means to be human, and Q embodied that theme better than almost any other character. His interactions with Pickard weren't random, they were narrative mirrors. When Q forced Pickard to relive his reckless youth in Tapestry, he was testing how regret shaped identity. When he put humanity on trial in All Good Things, he was forcing Pickard and us to confront what progress really means. So if Q chose Pickard for a reason, whether it was personal affection, destiny, or something cosmic, that reason matters. It ties into the very core of Star Trek's mission statement. Without an answer, it feels like the saga left its greatest thematic thread dangling. What could have been? At Star Trek, Legacy, or another spin-off been greenlit, there were countless ways this mystery could have been explored. 1. Q and Jack Crusher. Q's scene with Jack hinted that he wasn't done meddling with the Pickard bloodline. Maybe Q saw Jack as the next great test case for humanity's growth, or perhaps his obsession with Jean-Luc extended to his family, suggesting something deeper than coincidence. 2. The Continuum's agenda. We know frustratingly little about the Continuum itself. Was Q acting alone, or was he humanity's handler on behalf of his species? Exploring this would give cosmic weight to why Pickard mattered so much. 3. Pickard as humanity's archetype. Perhaps Q believed Pickard embodied the very best of humanity: intellect, morality, and humility. If so, Q's fixation wasn't just personal but symbolic, positioning Pickard as the representative of human potential. 4. The true final trial. Imagine a story where Pickard, or his successors, were called to face one final Continuum judgment. That would have been the ultimate stage to reveal why Q cared so deeply about him in the first place. The bittersweet farewell. Instead of answers, we got a goodbye. And to be clear, that goodbye was beautiful. The scene in Pickard Season 2 where Q embraced Jean-Luc was one of the most heartfelt in the franchise's history. It reframed Q not as a manipulative god, but as a lonely being who found meaning in one human life. For many fans, that's enough. But for others, myself included, it feels incomplete. Q's story ended on a whisper, not a revelation. The mystery lingers, and with no spin-off to continue the thread, it may remain unresolved forever. Will Star Trek ever revisit Q? The honest answer: maybe, but don't hold your breath. John D. Lancey is still active, and Q is a timeless character who can appear at any point in the timeline. But Paramount seems more interested in new projects than tying up old threads. If Q does return, it may not be to explain himself, it may just be to stir up more chaos. And that's fine. But part of me will always feel robbed that Pickard ended without digging into the heart of his obsession with Jean-Luc. Conclusion: the trial never ends. Q once told Pickard, "The trial never ends." He meant it metaphorically, of course, but it now feels literal. The trial of understanding Q, of understanding why he